So this month, as some of you may know, is NNN. I'm not explaining what that is. And a common theme surrounding this month is addiction. If you know, you know. But this has got me wondering. It takes a lot of effort to reverse a habit like gooning, and people who try usually have temporary withdrawal symptoms that are both mental and physical, similar to people who have other addictions like smoking, alcohol, or others. So today, I want to explain the chemistry behind addictions and the neuroscience behind how the brain forms habits. But before we get started, this is just a quick disclaimer that this is a semi-serious podcast that looks way too far into random topics using factual and scientific information for the purpose of both comedy and education. As such, certain points may be over-exaggerated for comedic effect, and I highly recommend people do their own research into the topics discussed in this series. Anyways, Wikipedia defines an addiction as a neuropsychological disorder characterized by a persistent and intense urge to use a drug or engage in a behavior that produces natural reward, despite substantial harm and other negative consequences. The most commonly talked about addictions are things such as smoking, drinking, drug misuse, gooning, porn, etc., but many other things can be addictive, such as sugar, my personal addiction, caffeine, gambling, social media, food, and many others. There are several classic signs that someone has a serious addiction. Those are that they may become angry and irritable, there may be changes to their sleeping habits, they may be present less often at school or work and perform worse, they may experience sudden changes in weight, they may have bloodshot eyes and abnormal pupil sizes, they may experience physical tremors, they may experience financial troubles, and they may prioritize their addiction over their personal relationships. Addictions can be categorized in one of two groups, chemical or behavioral. Sometimes addiction involves using a normally harmless thing in excess, like food, alcohol, caffeine, social media, or etc. And sometimes addictions can involve engaging in inherently bad activities, such as illegal drugs, smoking, etc. Let's discuss first how addictions may start. Neuropsychologists cooked up something called the trans-theoretical model of change. Basically, there are 5 stages of your brain taking an action. Pre-contemplation means you won't do something. Contemplation means you may think about doing something. Preparation means that you are planning to do something. And action means you do something. The final stage is the maintenance stage, which means you will continue doing something repeatedly. Now, the maintenance stage isn't necessarily bad, as long as the activity is healthy and legal, as I discussed earlier, and you can stop the activity at any time with no harmful physical or mental effects. Addiction creeps in, however, when getting out of this final stage causes physical and or mental effects known as a withdrawal. When you do something that gives you pleasure, this could be anything from scrolling on social media to gooning to using drugs, your brain's reward system kicks in and releases dopamine. And while each of those aforementioned addictions have different effects, the one thing they all have in common is that they hijack the brain's reward system, and withdrawal occurs because when you take the addiction away, your brain is no longer operating as it was adjusted to. Speaking of dopamine, that's the reason why people who quit things like alcohol, drugs, or gooning may experience temporary mood swings or extended feelings of sadness, because the brain temporarily suffers from a lack of dopamine because its reward system is no longer functioning properly. However, it is very important to recognize that many addictions can have far more serious withdrawal symptoms than just a gloomy day. For example, those who abuse drugs may suffer from withdrawal symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, chills, headaches, seizures, anxiety, confusion, and much more. But here is the final point I would like to make before we wrap up this introspective. There is light at the end of the tunnel. If you suffer from an addiction like excessive gooning or doom scrolling, there are plenty of things you can do at home to help yourself. Something that's helped me personally is embracing my hobbies, and in my case that's uploading daily to YouTube, learning a third language on Duolingo, and putting time into my studies. If you suffer from a more severe addiction, say alcohol, drugs, smoking, gambling, each thing I just mentioned has a specific hotline you can call if you live in the United States to get confidential help, and these numbers can be a great start. Just Google the hotline for alcohol, drugs, smoking, or gambling, and it'll lead you there. Sometimes you can quit these things cold turkey, but sometimes you may want to see your doctor instead and ask about cognitive behavioral therapy, or other forms of treatment. Disclaimer: if you suffer from a severe addiction and need urgent help because of it, call 911. You can never go wrong by visiting the hospital. Well, guys, that's all I have to talk about today. Next episode, I'll either find a new topic or I'll make a continuation to the EAS episode. But whatever the case, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of LIAMS Random Introspectives.